Afternoon, guys. We'll start with the broadcast section with no embargo, followed by an embargoed section for 10:30 p.m. tonight. No live tweeting during the broadcast section, please, and use the microphone provided. Paul.
Thanks. Hi, Ange. Ange, you've spoken about having some players back this last week, and you got the 4-1 win against Newcastle as a result. How important and how well equipped is the squad at this moment in time to find a run of consistency into Christmas?
Yeah, look, it's still a challenge because, you know, we've still got, you know, I think this morning I had a look, it was still 8 out injured from our first team squad. All have contributed, you know, apart maybe from Ash Phillips, who hasn't played a lot, but the rest have all contributed. So it's still a little bit of a challenge for us. You know, it's not just the games it affects training, you know. When we had all the guys fit at the start of the year, level of our training was a lot higher. We could be a lot more intense with what we do. It's a little bit different now. So, but, you know, it was good, like you said, to get back Pape and Richie last week, and that certainly helped us just to freshen up the team. And, you know, hopefully between now and kind of the new year, although then we'll lose players for international commitments. So I guess for the foreseeable future anyway, it's kind of where we're going to be.
You've obviously had a perception of Heung-Min Son before you came to the football club. Then you've got to work close up with him. Is there anything that you have noticed since you've started working with him that has maybe surprised you? And how will you cope? How will you plan for his loss in January along with Basuma and Sarr?
Yeah, no, nothing's really surprised me about Sonny. As you said, I've known him for a long time. The quality he has as a player is pretty evident to anybody who's sort of been following the Premier League and world football. And, you know, I had the advantage of already sort of having a glimpse into him as a person. And I guess the only new thing for him is that he's, you know, taken over a sort of leadership role within the group here. And, you know, again, he's taken to that really well. He's embraced the extra responsibility, both in and around sort of the culture and the environment here, but also, you know, during games, you know, when we've needed him to step up. So yeah, he'll look. You know, all those three players will be a big loss for us, but it's kind of been the story of our season. We've had to cope without significant players so far, and as I said, you know, that's kind of what we've been dealt with, and we'll just have to deal with it as we have.
A spotlight has been on Christian Romero again this week following a tackle in the game just after his suspension. I just wondering, what have you said to him this week about that? Is it trying to strike a balance in his approach?
Yeah, to a certain extent. But, you know, I think it's fair to say the spotlight will be on him for the rest of the year, because I just think, you know, any challenge he does, whether it's, you know, something that's pretty clear like the Chelsea game or last week, which I just thought was as much clumsy as anything else, will get highlighted. He knows that. He understands that. You know, he's just got to, you know, make the adjustments that he needs to do during the game. But, you know, I don't think it's a subject for long chats. You know, it's pretty evident, you know, the impact he has on us when he's playing and when he's not. And, you know, we much prefer to have him out there.
Thanks, Ange.
Hi, Ange. Just a quick one on team news. Have you got anyone else injured?
Yeah, the only one that's missed this week is Gio. He unfortunately got a bit of a niggle at training. I don't know exactly what it is, but he missed training today, so he's not available tomorrow. We're hopeful it's nothing too serious.
Some positive news this week, obviously Destiny Udogie signing a new long-term deal. He spoke, I think it was recently, about him learning this new role that he has here at the club. I mean, how important is he to the way that you want to play?
Yeah, no, really pleased with Destiny signing. Obviously, you know, I've said before, this is kind of the first phase of us trying to build something, and there's, you know, the core of the group is sort of fairly young and new to the Premier League, and I think Destiny sort of committing to us is an endorsement for what he sees as a good place for him and his future. You know, it's his first year in the Premier League. Like I said, he's adapting to a new role. He understands that. He's a willing sort of worker in trying to improve himself, but he's also made an impact, which is the big thing for us. So, like I said, you know, great to have him commit to the club long term, and it's something that we kind of want to continue building on and sort of trying to keep a core of this group together for the coming years, hopefully to build something special.
He scored his first goal against Newcastle, first Spurs goal. Brennan Johnson hit the post, I think it was twice in that match. I interviewed him last week, and he spoke a lot about how Heung-Min Son has been really important to him settling into the way that you know, he wants to play in that attack. He returns to Forest tomorrow for the first time since leaving. So what do you make rather of the way that he's developed within your attack?
Yeah, look, you know, we're really pleased with the way, you know, Brennan's developing. Again, he came in really late. You know, I'm always wary when signings come in late in the piece, you know, because they have to get up to speed with the way we train, the way we play, and then he had a couple of little setbacks with little niggles, so he hasn't really had a good run at it. But the last few weeks, you can see he's starting to, I think, more than anything, feel at ease with himself with what we're trying to do, and especially in that front third, you need the players to kind of play with a little bit more freedom, yet at the same time he's taking in a lot of information. But I thought he was really good last week. As you said, he probably unlucky not to score, but his general game was really good, and I'm sure Sonny's helped him enormously. But I think you ask any player in the group, and I think they'd be pretty consistent in saying Sonny's been a big part of them sort of settling into what we're doing here.
Thanks, Ange.
Ali.
Hi, Ange. I was going to ask you about the other fullback, Pedro Porro, from the weekend. Obviously, he's a player that you inherited. He was on a loan that was going to be made permanent regardless anyway. I mean, at what point did you kind of identify, or actually, rather than someone I'm kind of stuck with, actually he's someone that fits perfectly what I want?
Yeah, you know, he's a good footballer, you know, and most coaches will tell you they want good footballers, and I didn't see anything there. I mean, I know, you know, a lot of people have always said, you know, especially with the way I got my fullbacks to play, but I haven't been at a club yet where the fullbacks haven't adapted, you know, whether that was at Celtic, whether that was at Yokohama, since I've kind of been going down this road. You know, very few have struggled with it. I think it's just probably, you know, the uniqueness of what they do that takes people aback a little bit. But in terms of the functionality of it, you know, we try and make it as kind of simple for the guys in that position, and then the quality we have both with Pedro and Destiny, you know, they take it to another level altogether, you know, because it's one thing for me to say to them to sort of move into the areas we want them to move, but then they need to show that quality, and they got it in abundance. So I was never concerned about Pedro, you know. I didn't feel him and Emerson. I thought we were well covered on the right-hand side. Excuse me.
After that ball to Richarlison the other day, obviously turned to you, big celebration with you. I mean, have you ever had a fullback that's been as much of a playmaker in that respect as he is?
Yeah. And most of the guys, most of the teams I'll play, you know, whether it was at, you know, Celtic, Greg Taylor was very influential, Anthony Rolson, Alistair Johnson. When I was at Yokohama, Ken Matsubara, I could go on. They're all that's part of the way we play.
Yeah. And on Basuma,
they don't all hug me after a goal.
Just back to Basuma and Sarr quickly. Do you know when their last game will be yet for you?
No, we'll still work through that. I'm kind of focusing, you know, what's ahead between now and then, and I guess we'll go through all those sort of permutations over the next couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Across to Charlie, please.
Just wondering, obviously you got some experience from it at Celtic. How do you find this kind of really congested Christmas period? Not so much this weekend, but then afterwards you go into a run of a few games. Yeah, how do you find that?
Yeah, it's like I said, it's probably more normal than not. But again, that's dependent on sort of, you know, where we're at from a squad perspective. You know, it's that's where you get challenged because obviously, like I said, we've still got 8 guys out. At least 7 of them won't be back for at least a little while. Some won't be back. You know, you're left with a fairly thin squad where you can't rotate players. You're going to have to ask. And the way we play is fairly physically and sort of mentally demanding. So, but our guys have been pretty good so far, showing resilience through that, and we'll have to keep doing that.
Just wonder as well, are you conscious when, say, like Forest away, and obviously their manager's under a lot of pressure, it could get fractious. Is that something you think about, or do you try and sort of put that context out of your and the team's head?
Look, you take everything into context. I mean, I don't think it kind of makes a significant difference to us. You know, it's fair to say any team that's going to play, you know, Forest knows it's going to be a difficult game, irrespective of where they're at in terms of, you know, their own sort of trajectory. So, you know, even this year, I know, you know, the results haven't been great, but at home they're still very hard to beat, and all the games are pretty close. So you know it's going to be a tough game. So it doesn't really, you know, the fact that they're going through a rough trot, and no one was going through a worse trial than we were a week ago, and we ended up winning 4-1. So, I think you kind of always balance those things off, because you can fall into a trap of thinking, they're not going well, or they're under pressure, or somehow they'll be less than at their best, and you can't assume that. You got to assume that they're going to be at their best, and at home they're going to be hard to beat.
Just ask you from me on Papsar, you mentioned the importance of getting some players back, and he feels like someone who makes a really big difference to how the team plays, and maybe how some of the other individuals in the team play as well. Is that fair?
No, because I think if Matters came in, he'd make a difference. I think if Mickey came in, he'd make a difference. But there's no doubt he's a top player, and he does add another dimension to our football. But like I said, at the start of the year when we were flying, it was, we've got some pretty key contributors to that, both starting and coming off the bench who aren't available now. So, and getting Pape back, and even Richie now, fully fit Richie, which I don't think we saw at the start of the year. We need them. It helps us, because without them, it's a struggle.
Back to George, please.
Hi, Ange. It was obviously a really good attacking display last weekend, but maybe got overlooked how much of an improvement it was defensively as well. How pleased were you to sort of see the defence back to how it kind of was at the start of the season?
Yeah, no, that was an important part. And again, it's not just about the back four or Vic. It's as a team, I thought we were a lot more sort of organised with our press, and particularly, we kind of knew Newcastle counter attacking, and they got some real threats up front. If you're kind of not organised, I thought we were a lot better in that sense. Romero makes a big difference to that, but I thought Ben Davis was outstanding as well last week, and he's getting a run of games now, but. We've always got to be mindful. He's not a centre back, so again we're kind of trying to manufacture something there. But he's grown into that role, and I thought it was important last week, because whilst I said after the game, obviously Newcastle going through a similar trot to us in terms of lack of personnel. When you looked at their sort of front half of the team, they were still a big threat, and we had to be really disciplined. And I thought we showed that. Apart from sort of the goal, which got a bit sloppy towards the end, the rest of the game, I thought we were pretty good.
I'm guessing Mickey's still quite a few weeks away, so it could be Christian and Ben for the foreseeable future, sort of no injuries, touch wood. Yeah. How comfortable are you with them two as a centre-back partnership? And I guess there was probably a point at the start of the season where that could have been the starting team if Mickey hadn't joined when he did. Yeah,
to a certain extent, but I mean, at the same time, like I said, Ben's sort of still adapting to it, and he's done remarkably well. But centre back is still a position where it's a fairly, especially in our structure, it's one of the few positions where you need guys with outstanding attributes in there, and we've been very fortunate that he's able to fill in for us there, and he's really good at taking in information. He really understands the game. He's not just his own role, but how we want to play, and I think that's helped him. And as I said, having Romero next to him is, I think, helps in that sense. And Vic, because Vic's kind of taken a bit of a leadership role back there as well. But I mean, ultimately we still need to sign another centre back. Because at the moment we're kind of a little bit on tender hooks. That if something happens again, then we're short, and we're already short.
And just with Nottingham Forest, obviously any talk about Forest kind of sparks memories of Brian Clough. Fair to assume you would have watched a fair amount of his team in sort of late 70s, early 80s, and as a character, obviously a huge character. How much of an influence was he kind of when you was growing up watching football?
Well, not a direct one, but he's one of these managers who have made an indelible impact on the game. When you think about Nottingham Forest, winning the European Cup, I mean, it's quite an achievement. I mean, English football at the time was, fairly dominant through Europe, but still a remarkable achievement. And people like Brian Clough, have this unique place in our game where their impact is undeniable and stays forever for a number of reasons.
We'll finish just with one from James, please.
Hi, Ange. The Champions League group stage obviously came to a head this week. I just wondered if you watched any of those matches and how much, if at all, does not being part of it kind of drive you on to try and get Tottenham into the top four?
What do you reckon, mate? Do you reckon I would have just let's see what's on telly tonight? Champions League. I might have a look at that.
Game Friday.
Yeah, no, I do follow the football a fair bit. No, I watched it all, and you know, it's I guess European football in general. You know, you kind of it's where you want to be. You want to be involved in those games. You want your football club involved because not just because of it's European football, but the unique challenges it brings. Because you know you play in different countries, different conditions, different styles of football. You know, all those kind of things you enjoy. That aspect of it, so yeah, it's definitely something this football club should be a part of, absolutely. And I think not being part of it this year has hurt us because I think it gives you a chance to develop your squad even quicker with the experiences they have and the ability to kind of give more game time to your squad. So I think it's hurt us this year, but hopefully we're back in it next year and making an impact.
Does it make January harder as well? Because obviously it's not something you can offer for the second half of the season.
Yeah, to a certain extent, but like I said, the way we are squad-wise at the moment, it's probably from that perspective a bit of a blessing for us because, as I said, we've got significant injuries listed at the moment. We're going to lose 3 players to international football, so we're going to have to work really hard to sort of get through that period. With our focus on trying to get back to European football.
Okay, we'll end the broadcast section there. We'll move on to the Embargoed section starting at 10:30 p.m. tonight. Tom?
And just obviously, if Man United and Newcastle made it through, that would have given a better chance of there being 5 spaces this year. So, did you find yourself getting particularly frustrated watching those games, knowing that might impact on the show?
Nah, not really. I mean, I don't think that's not aiming for 5th spot, mate. So, we'll see.
Last season when Spurs went to Forest, there was a moment where Richarlison was doing a few sort of kick-ups on the pitch, and it was actually Brennan Johnson who sort of took him out. There was a clip that went viral. I know this week when you were speaking to the football manager guys, you were talking about how you like your teams to play almost as if they were when they were kids. Do you like them to express themselves in that way, or is that pushing it a bit far? What do you think?
No, I reckon even if you did what Richie did as a kid, somebody would give you a whack. That's just part of football. Everyone knows there's a line. I think and it's all good. I don't think there's we don't want to take all the fun out of the game. So I think every player knows there's kind of a line, and if you cross that line, somebody will bring you back into line pretty quickly. And Brennan did with Richie. So yeah. I mean, I don't know. You'd have to ask him if he was aware of that. But I think I said before the game, he looks a lot more sort of, freer at training from when I first arrived. Everything was a bit of a struggle for him when I first got here, and you could tell that, he wasn't able to sort of, play or move as freely as he wanted to, and he was kind of labouring through things, but he was still, still having an effect on games, but you could tell, and it got progressively worse, whereas since he's come back, you just see him at training, and even before the game on the weekend, he just he feels more like himself in terms of what he can do physically, and that's a big thing for a footballer, because for the most part, footballers are always sort of battling with something. There's always some little niggle, but if it's something that's really debilitating that they don't sort of deal with straight away, that they have to carry on with it. It has an impact on them, I think, physically, but also mentally, because they know that every game they go into, every training session is going to be a struggle, whereas you remove that from it and they can just play. And I thought you saw that last week. I thought not just his goals, but just his general work rate. I think at least 2 of the goals came from him winning the ball back for us. So, he's able to do that stuff, and I think that gives him more confidence.
John?
Just following on from that, Charleston, when he was at his best at Everton, he was just a menace all over the pitch, wasn't he? He was absolutely everywhere, in a good way. Yeah. But then, does that freedom and that sort of mentality sort of kind of mean that he's free to kind of just express himself so much more, and obviously therefore a lot more to come from?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, that's kind of hopefully the platform we're giving him. Look, it's always a challenge for footballers. You know, he came here and, like I said, he had a fantastic impact, you know, in the Premier League with Everton, and he came here and again, you know, whenever significant money is invested and the expectations rise, you go to a club that all of a sudden is you know, competing for honours. All those kind of things are the challenges you have to overcome when you come to a big club. And like I said, that coupled with kind of the physical sort of setbacks he's had, and then as a striker, there's usually just one thing people measure you by, goals, and you know, all those kind of factors. So, but again, that's up to him now. You know, he's, like I said, what we're trying to do is give him that platform, and he showed last week that, you know, he can be still be a real threat at this level, and both with and without the ball. And you know, he's not going to be starved of opportunities here, and it's up to him now to take them and get his football to the level, you know, that we all believe he can.
Can I just take you back to Brennan Johnson as well? Because obviously he's a young player, right, with a big price tag. How impressed have you been in the way that he has settled? It hasn't weighed heavy on his shoulders, has it?
No, I don't think so. You know, I guess there's always some pressure there, and you know, like I said, I always bear in mind that, you know, they're 22, you know, and he's 22, and you know, Destiny, Pape, 21, even Kulusevski, 23. They're all very, very young men still, you know, and regardless of how much we say to them, you know, don't worry about the price tag or don't worry about the expectations, they're human beings, so it affects them one way or another. And usually it's, you know, you kind of hope you get an idea of the kind of people they are, you know, from kind of the trajectory their career's taken. And you look at Brennan, and he's had a really good upbringing and a really good foundation at Forest coming through there, and the way he's developed his football every year, that suggested to me that, you know what, even if it takes a little bit of time to adjust, he's shown already that he can go up levels. And I've been really pleased with him. Like I said, it's always hard when players come in late in the window, particularly to a new environment. It's not like we were already established and he's just got to plug in. The whole group was still learning how we're going to play and everything, and he's sort of walked in last minute, and I've been really happy with him. And the big thing for us is we know there's loads to come.
Thank you. John?
I've been asked to ask about VAR, so I apologise.
No, you haven't. You just want to ask it. Yeah. Don't blame someone else.
I think the key decision at the Liverpool game over the weekend needed 24 replays before it was made. Is this something that needs sorting out? Is it just slowing everything down?
Look, I think I'd be very surprised if people aren't unaware of my opinions on that. You know, as I said before, I don't think it's being used in the manner it was brought in for. So, you know, that's the space we're in, and I'm hoping that the people who are in charge, you know, kind of simplify the whole process so everyone can really understand why it's in the game, because I don't really know why it's in the game at the moment. You know, it certainly hasn't made things clearer, hasn't made it more enjoyable, not for me. I still don't celebrate goals like I used to. So I think, but like I said, I think I've said my piece on that, and I'll leave it to the people who are in charge to kind of hopefully chart a way forward for it.
Going back to the game, Forest have got sizable pre-code. Is that something you know personally come across?
Yeah, I've come across the president a few times, and yeah, very passionate football person, long history in the game in Greece, and yeah, he's very passionate about his football.
You're a fan of, you come from a family from another Greek club?
Yeah, AEK Athens, mate. It's my club, AEK Athens. I was born about a kilometre from their stadium, mate. This is my dad's team.
Steve Finalist seems to be living under a constant threat of sack. Is that something that...
We all are, aren't we? You know, you would have been coming from me if we didn't win last week. Come on, be honest. I really like Coops. I actually, I think it was a couple of summers ago, the year he got promoted in the off season, we actually stayed at the same hotel in Athens here with his family, and me with my family. Just by coincidence, we were there, and I got to spend a bit of time with him, and got a lot of time for him. And he was, even before I'd met him, he was so well regarded within the coaching fraternity, so well respected, and can't be sort of dismissed what an achievement it was for him to get Forest into the Premier League from where he picked them up. And I don't think, I said, kind of all of us, we want to make an impact at football clubs. He's made an undeniable impact at Forest, and he's a top manager, and I'm sure he'll work his way through this one as well.
Did you know you were coming to the Premier League then?
No, I was a Celtic, mate. We just finished my first year at Celtic, so I was well away from the Premier League.
Okay, we'll finish with Dan for 12 o'clock tomorrow, please.
And you said, I think last month, that you wanted the club to not just early in the month if they could, which feels even more important with signing presumably Sargo. Where are you with that? Is the club kind of on board with that aim as well?
Look, I wrote my letter to Santa, so like my kids now, I just got to see whether I've been naughty or nice, and see what I get, mate. We'll see. We'll see. That's strange, isn't it?
The club's done some good business in January. Pedro's on the deadline day, and it was Dayan and Rodrigo the year before. There are obviously challenges to getting players in early in the month. I mean, I guess can you sort of talk through that?
Yeah, look, it is challenging, like I said. I mean, ideally, and the reason is obviously, like I said, with kind of where we're at injury-wise and the players we're going to miss, like, we've got some significant games through January, and signing somebody late in January could mean that, we haven't been able to make an impact in those other games. But, we're pushing hard. But obviously, you need all parties to agree to that. Other clubs will be saying, well, particularly if they're players they want to hold on to them for as long as possible for their own reasons through January. So it is a challenge, I get that. But, we're working hard with, everyone at the club to try and sort of get the best outcomes for us, and we'll see how it goes.
And it struck me that Sonny, Brennan, Dayan and Richarlison have all played more than one position in the last 3 or 4 games. I mean, how important is that variety to you, and teams not being able to predict your team beforehand?
Yeah, look, I mean, some of it's been through necessity, and thankfully they are players who are fairly adaptable, and I've always sort of tried to have that element in the squads I have and the kind of players we bring in, that you can throw Ben Davis into that mix as well. That without those kind of players who are adaptable, it would have been even harder for us to get through this period, because if they just played the one position, and you could end up having 3 players who all just can play right wing, and you're desperate for a central striker, or like I said, Decky's played probably 4 different positions for us, Kulusevski. So that's certainly been helpful, and I think it helps develop their game. I think, you look at Sonny last week, and fair to say, I think in the last sort of 2-3 games, he's been really starved of the ball, and just you could see all of a sudden he was back on the ball and how excited he was and the impact he could make. So it helps them having that different perspective as well.
Okay, thanks, guys.